Shabbat Shalawam, Shabbat Shalawam, Yasharahla. All praises being to the Most High, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Amashiach, Yahweh Shai. Beautiful. All praises. Last week I went over, it wasn't really a touchy topic. I wouldn't say touchy, but it's something that a lot of people struggle with. But hopefully it was edifying. I believe it was anyway, because I've been told. Not like by everyone, but I've been told. So yeah, all praises to the Most High in that part. So today I feel like I want to go into a little bit of description, like a bit more descriptive. For example, the biblical Jews. What were they like? What's the description of them? Like no one knows anything in regards to this. It's as if these people did not actually exist, did not walk on the earth, so they say color don't matter and, that sort of thing, which is folly. It's all folly. When you go into it on a deeper level, you realize that it's all folly. We need to know these things. And not knowing these things, you can be led astray quite easily. Very, very easily, because of your lack of understanding or just the lack of knowing can cause this. Salakia. Alright, so today I want to go through a few scriptures in regards to, just brief descriptions. And let's see if we can find some color in the Bible. But again, don't be hung up on endless genealogy. And it's not about skin tone. It's just about some facts. Okay? So, in regards to what did the biblical Jews look like? Okay, what was their visage? Let's go to Songs of Solomon. This is a very well-known scripture by a lot of people. They might not know the full ins and outs of it, but yes, it's known. So we want chapter 1, Songs of Solomon, and we're going to start from verse 5 and we'll go through to 6. Color in the scriptures. I am black, but comely, O ye daughters of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. So, here is a description. Melanin is being described here. However, it is in the song. It is in the Songs of Solomon. But what you've got to understand is Solomon never was no vine keeper or nothing. No. It is not actually Solomon speaking here. This is a woman. It is a woman that is speaking. Okay, but the woman is a Jew. The woman is an Israelite. So I'll read it one more time. Verse 6. She says, look not upon me because I am black, because the sun has looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyard or vineyard, but mine own vineyard have I not kept. Okay, so that is a scripture that just stumps it out right away. Verse 5 again. I am black but comely, beautiful. O ye daughters of Jerusalem, the daughters of Jerusalem are black, as the tents of Kedar, black, as the curtains of Solomon, black. Okay. It's crazy, isn't it? Even though we don't associate with a color, because we're definitely not no color from the crayon box, but we have the understanding of what it means if we say, yeah, I'm a black man. Yeah, we get the analogy of that. Right, so let's go down to Exodus chapter 2 and verse 19. Exodus chapter 2 and verse 19 for some examples. Now, what was happening here? We're talking about Moses. Something that occurred with Moses. So Exodus chapter 2 verse 19. And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hands of the shepherd, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. this is something that occurred with Moses. Okay? Slakia, the name has slipped me at the moment. Jethro, I think, is the father of the girls that was telling him what had occurred. But note, they said an Egyptian. And they said, an Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. So they mistook Moses for an Egyptian based on what he looked like. We know the Egyptians are melanated people. We know Moses was not an Egyptian but an Israelite. Clearly melanated also. So again, okay, let's jump up a few chapters, still in Exodus, up a few chapters to verse 4, and we want chapter 4, verse 6 and 7. Verse 6, and the Lord said furthermore unto him, still in reference to Moses, and the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom, and when he had took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. He lost his melanin. Okay, he lost his melanin. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, put now thine hand into thine bosom, into thine bosom. And when he took it out, behold, his hand was leprous as snow. Verse 7. And he said, put thine hand into thy bosom again. Put it back into thy bosom. And he put his hand into his bosom again and plucked it out, and is out of his bosom. And behold, it was turned again as his other flesh. So what happened to Moses there? He put his hand in his bosom. When he took it out, he lost his melanin. His hand was leprous, white as snow. Lack of pigmentation. When he put it back in, it went back to the rest of his body. Color in the Bible. Moses being the Israelite, so-called black man. Okay. Let's have a check on brother Jeremiah. Benjamite brother Jeremiah. And we want chapter 14 and verse 2. That's what we want. Jeremiah chapter 14 verse 2. Judah mourneth, the Jews. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. The gates are your rulership. Your gate protect you from the outside, so to speak. Right? So our gates languishing. We have no leadership. If you look at our communities today, so-called black communities, and where's the leadership? Nah, we ain't got it. So our gates are languishing. Okay? Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black. I read again. The Jews. Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languish. They are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem has gone up. So the Jews are black unto the ground. What is this saying? The dirt, the soil in general, it has the top layer that has a certain tone to it. As you dig down, the deeper you go through many different layers, many different shades of, as they say, brown. 72 shades of brown. That's what it's saying. So again, Judah mourneth, and the gates thereof languished. They, the Jews, are black unto the ground, and the cry of Jerusalem has gone up. Comes to mind the scripture that goes, the Most High created man from the dust of the earth. Again, color. We can have a look at chapter 8. Let's step back a bit in Jeremiah and go to chapter 8, and then we can go down to verse 20. Verse 21. We got verse 21. It says, "For the hurt of the daughter of my people am I hurt." So Jeremiah is hurt for the daughters of his people. Who's Jeremiah? A Jew, an Israelite. So he's talking about his people. "For the hurt of the daughter of my people am I hurt. I am black. Astonishment has taken hold on me." Jeremiah chapter 8:21. "For the hurt of the daughters of my people am I hurt. I am black. Astonishment has taken hold of me." Okay. Let's have a check at Daniel. It's quite clear. So we need the book of Daniel. We need Daniel chapter 10. I'm going to go into a still on the same topic, but we're going to bring it up a notch. Bring it up a notch. So we say Daniel chapter 5 and Daniel chapter 10, so like Israel, verse 5. And I think we'll go through to verse 6 also. "Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine Uphaz, gold of Uphaz." So it's a description you're getting. "Then I lifted up mine eyes," this is Daniel, "then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz." It's a Mashiach Yahushai. "His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as a lamp of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his word like the voice of a multitude." Polished brass. His arms and his legs were like unto polished brass. We know what tone that is. You are getting the description of a melanated man, a so-called black man. Whom did I say this was? A Mashiach Yahushai. And let us go and get this very same account from elsewhere, from somebody else who saw him. So we're going to go to Revelation. We're going to go to Revelation chapter 1, verse 14. And go through to verse 15. "And his hairs." This is a description. This is what John saw. Now, for edification's sake, I'll start from verse 13. "And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, Christ, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girded about the paps with a golden girdle." So it's as if he had a golden belt. Okay? Verse 14. "His head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire." Okay? His head and his hairs, head, the hair, all of it. "His head and his hairs were white like wool, white as snow." So you're getting texture and you're getting color. So the hair on the head were white like wool, white as snow. Texture, wool. Which people on the face of the earth is considered to have woolly hair? Them so-called black people. Okay? So what is it talking about that is being white as snow? The gray hair. That is what is being described right there. "His head and his hairs were white like wool and white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire." You know, referring back to where it says his eyes were red with wine. He drank a lot of wine. Okay? Verse 15. and his feet, going back into what we just read a while ago from Daniel 10, 5 and 6, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters, meaning he was loud. He was loud, thundering voice. Again from 15. And his feet like unto fine brass. We know the skin tone. It's brass. The rest of your body is the same skin tone as your feet. Okay? So again describing the very same thing that Daniel saw. And it's a Mashiach Yahushai, as John alluded to right here when he told you, one like unto the Son of Man. Okay? So we can step away from there and just stay in Revelation, but just step up a bit to chapter 4 and verse 3. It's a little bit more. Revelation chapter 4 and verse 3. And he that sat was to look upon, and he that sat was to look upon, like a jasper and a sardine stone. And there was a rainbow round about the throne, in sight like unto an emerald. So again, here you're having a description of a Mashiach Yahushai on the throne, looking like a jasper and sardine stone. Look like me. We need to know this. Looking like me. All praises to the Most High Yahweh Bahashem Mashiach Yahushai. This is a lot of information. And yet it's all at our fingertips. Alright, so let's have a step back and go look at the Old Testament. You know, let's look at the Tanakh. Let's go to Job. We just want Job 30:30. Job 30 and 30. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. Again, my skin is black upon me, and my bones are burned with heat. And this is Job. So-called black man. Okay. Why don't we just know these things off the bat? Why don't we just know these things off the bat? Again, it's because of unscrupulous people, and they don't want you to know what you really ought to know. And the Most High, sometimes they think the Most High don't have a sense of humor. But watch what was said here. Revelation chapter 1 and 11. Saying, red letters, Mashiach Yahushai, saying, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, and what thou seest, write in a book and send it unto the 7 churches which are in Asia, unto Ephesus, and unto Smyrna, and unto Pergamos, and unto Thyatira, and unto Sardis, and unto Philadelphia, and unto Laodicea. Okay? What I wanted to pull out of there was, I am Alpha and Omega, the first and the last. And what thou seest, write in a book. We are reading from said book right at this present moment. So what if John didn't write? What if Daniel didn't write? What if all these prophets didn't write, for example, what they look like? Someone could tell you that it's a total different thing than what you might be thinking. It looks like something else. Create an image for you. Sounds familiar? This is why these things are not known, but this is why the Most High has got all these things written down aforetime for our learning, so that we know these things. We were just going through the description of a Mashiach Yahushai and the Jews. Please don't forget, do not separate a Mashiach Yahushai from the Jews, from the Israelites. Because a Mashiach Yahushai, whom the world ignorantly calls Jesus the Christ, is an Israelite. So you can't separate them. So the description of the biblical Jews, they're black unto the ground. But again, don't be caught up in endless genealogy, and it's really not about skin tone. So until next time, all praises be unto the Most High. Enjoy the rest of your Shabbat, family. We shall chat shortly. Shalawam.